everyone. My name is Sam Soukas and I work with Remax Hallmark Realty Limited and our office is at 785 Queen Street East. Today I'm going to be speaking with Michael Goldman of Purity Pest Control and our little friend down there called Radar. Michael, Purity Pest Control is a company that helps people get rid of bugs, all kinds of.
Correct, we're a pest management firm.
And if you find a bug in their house, are there various treatments that will help get rid of most of these bugs?
Yes, so depending on the bug, on the insect, certain treatments will work well for one but not for another. So you target your treatment on the insect, on what you have.
So termites seem to be a problem in Toronto. I know that when we've worked together on various inspections, we have found termites, and it seems to be a problem no one really wants to talk about soon enough in the process of buying a home. Are there any misconceptions about termites, and does there always need to be kind of wood-to-soil contact for termites to get into a house?
Well, first of all, termites are not just a problem in Toronto. There's a large termite population in Guelph and Elora. They have termites in Windsor. Yeah, all along this whole corridor there's termites. And the only other place in Canada that I believe they are in Vancouver. There doesn't have to be soil to wood contact, although that's traditionally where we get a lot of termites from, because if wood is sitting on the soil, it stays moist and will rot a little bit. The termites will be able to get up there really easy, and there won't be any gap for them to have to go between. If they can't get through, if there's no soil to wood contact, they make what's called shelter tubes. And
I think I've seen some of these.
Mud tubes are also called, and basically they're just these small gray lines that you'll see going up the side of a brick and then just stop. And that's because they found a little opening that they're going into. Now they've breached that area where there's no wood, and now they found the wood and gone into the structure.
Interesting. Quite smart.
They're good engineers.
Certainly. I've been to some termite inspections where the inspector is a human being, and who claims to be able to kind of see behind finished walls. And I'm not sure quite how to do that. And they'll give a house a clean bill of health, and then radar will come along and find spots where that person could not see. So I'm just wondering, it's kind of miraculous. I mean, what are your thoughts on a human inspecting? I mean, they'd have to have almost a basement that's totally unfinished.
Right. First of all, Radar is a bedbug dog.
He's a bedbug dog. Okay.
I would bring Cody out if it was a termite inspection. A human inspector can walk through a house, and basically what they're doing is they're looking for signs. So they're looking for shelter tubes. They're looking for damaged wood. Sometimes even your hardwood floors. They'll go through your hardwood floor, tapping on wood, on windowsills, etc. Looking for a hollow sound, which is an indicator. And in the basement, they're looking at the joists, etc. But if it's a finished basement, there's not a lot you can see. So they're guesstimating really that based on what I've seen, there are no termites here. But it really is. It's an educated guess. Someone who goes in to do a termite inspection, I would say, knows what they're doing and knows what they're looking for. But they're only as good as their eyes. Whereas the dog going in, the dog is not looking for anything. He's using his nose. And it's the same training that goes into bombs and drugs and missing people. That's the same kind of training, and the dog is using his nose to find termites. And we can walk along a wall, and there can be an electrical outlet here, and I'm bringing my dog along this way, and the termites are behind the wall over here. But he'll walk by it and he'll go and stop at the electrical outlet. And the reason for that is that the dog is trained to alert to the area of highest concentration of odor. Okay, I'm smelling it, it's getting stronger and stronger, and he goes to the receptacle. The reason is air's flowing in and out of that. Right? There's a little cap, the plate on top of it, but air's flowing out, that's where it is. Now, as a pest management professional, when I'm dealing with termites, I don't really care if it's here or it's here. I want to know if we have them. For the purchaser, the purchaser doesn't really care if they're here or they're here. They're along this wall. That's good enough for them. They know they have termites. Now at least when if they still want to purchase a house, they know what they're getting into when they're buying it. But there's nothing more accurate than a dog's sense of smell. There are other ways of looking for termites. There's units that use sound that can actually hear them chomping away. You can use moisture meters, and if you find moisture in a wall, there's it could be a tendency to have termites there as well. There are a couple others, but they're expensive. But still, the dog dog's not perfect. Nothing is 100%. I would say that the dog is about 95% accurate. And if they're behind a wall or someplace, and he alerts, he gives me that alert, then I have to believe him.
So I just wanted to tell everybody what an inspection looks like by Cody, who's not here today. But what does that look like to them?
Okay, basically I take the dog and I walk into the house, and I walk along the walls where possible. Unfortunately, some of the houses are cluttered, and we can't get to that wall. I want to get to that window and that door, because those are areas. A window, especially an outside window, over the years, they tend to perspire when they're not sealed properly, and so then you'll get drip, 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 and that causes moisture into the wood, and that's what the termites are looking for. So we'll move along to those places there, and then we go down to the basement, and I find a lot of times that the dog alerts to the base of the stairs, because the stairs have been there for an older house, 30, 40 years, and the foundation is possibly cracked right underneath it, because the pressure is always there when you're walking on it, and it just needs a small crack to come up through the wood. And the same thing with the basement. We walk along, we take them to all the walls, all the windows, etc. And you're right. When I do come across a floor drain, it's amazing. It's the floor drain could be underneath a carpet, and I don't even see it. And he'll just stop in the middle, and he'll paw at that spot, and I'll pull it back, and there's a drain. And he's smelling actually what's underneath the soil. It's underneath the subfloor. And
through that opening, there's air moving there now.
Yeah.
He's catching scent on there. So Cody, how long has he been working with you?
Well, we got Cody at 12 weeks. He was a rescue.
Oh, really?
And just over a year, I had him trained to sniff out termites. So he's been doing it for 9 years.
And you said earlier, just a moment ago, that they're about 95% accurate. Have you ever known Toby to make a mistake around whether he finds them or not?
No. To date, no one has ever called me up and said, "You gave me a clean bill of health, we opened up a wall and there's termites there." And no one has called me up and said, "The deal fell through because you said there's termites and we opened up some walls and couldn't find anything." Just because you can't find something doesn't mean it's not there, especially with termites, because
you were saying that if you start hammering against the walls.
Right. So it's interesting. Certain termites are different in different places. I was in Mexico, and my friends who I was traveling with thought it was nuts because I was playing with these termite cartons, they're called. They're large structures that are built above the ground.
Right.
And when I touched it, the soldier termites came out in droves to attack who's ever touching that. It was unbelievable. And yet, when subterranean termites that we have here in Ontario, if you bang on the wood or there's vibrations, they get scared and they immediately go down into the soil, and so you don't see anything. So that's the problem. I could say that the dog's alerting to the front window, and you start pulling out the drywall or whatever, and you don't see anything. There's nothing here. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean there's nothing there. And it's such a tiny hole that they're crawling through that if it's older wood, unless you're really looking close with a magnifying glass for that tiny little hole that you could be going through, you're not going to see them.
Amazing. Say you find termites in a property and they choose to treat. So you come by and perform the treatment. 5 years from now, Cody does a walk around. Would he alert to anything there, or should there be any kind of alerting to termites?
Okay, well, first of all, we don't actually do termite treatments, my company. And I have a policy that when I take my dogs out to do a termite or bed bug inspection, I will not do the service. There is a perceived conflict of interest that I could literally train my dog that if I twitched my pinky, he would stop and do an alert, and I'd say, look, you have bed bugs, and you'd be really impressed because the dog seems to know what he's doing. And then I tell you, for X amount of dollars, I'll treat it. So, except for the fact that I hope you don't have them, I don't really care because I'm not going to benefit financially from finding them. So that takes me right out of the equation. So the termites, you get the house treated, and unfortunately in Ontario or in Canada, because we're such a small market, the safer procedures to treat for termites in the States are not up here, and I doubt if they ever will be because we're just such a small market. But what they have to do is soil drenching, and that requires that you drill every foot along the outside and inside footprint of the house. So every wall along the outside, even the structural walls on the inside, have to be treated on both sides. And this way the soil gets drenched and it acts as a barrier. Now that chemical really only lasts 2 to 3 years, depending on moisture. If we have a very, very wet spring, let's say, and wet summer, all that moisture waters down the chemical.
Interesting.
So it doesn't last as long. The chemical breaks down quickly in sunlight. So the chemical that's around the house, let's say 2 years, it's good for. And you had termites coming along from next door or even across the street, because the actual nest can be 100 feet away. So across the street they're coming along, and now they've sensed this chemical barrier that wasn't there before. They are going to retreat back. They'll find somewhere else to go. A couple of years go by, and then maybe these termites say, hey, here's a corridor, let's go check this out. And they just follow it along, and they're right back at your house again, long after the efficacy of the chemical is gone. So they can, they can come back again, soon after the chemical's gone. So that's why every couple of years is not a bad idea.
Is that what it's at?
Yeah.
I thought it was like 10, 20 years.
No, unfortunately the chemicals don't last that long. Another problem that you have is you live in a semi-detached.
Well, yes,
and
exactly. Yeah,
your house gets treated, and your next door says, we don't have them, we don't need to get treated. Even though I've shown you, I could show you live ones here, and I say you need to be treated, and you want to get treated, or you're the purchaser, and you're going to want this treated before you move in, whether the vendor does it or the purchaser does it and gets reimbursed. You want to make sure that your neighbor that you're attached to also understands this and gets treated as well, because if only one side gets treated and there are termites on the other side, they can breach that chemical. They'll just crawl up a wall, they'll find something that's joining the two houses, and they'll follow along, and now they're into your house.
It's one building.
You know it. Right.
There is a bylaw on the books in Toronto that says if you have termites on one side, the other side has to treat as well. But the city doesn't really enforce that anymore, from what I understand. But it's there on the books, so.
Well,
it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. In the 70s and the 80s, the city was actually giving grants to people to get termite treatments done because they wanted to try and nip it in the bud. But in the mid-80s, they stopped it because there was just too many areas with termites, and there's not enough money. They're in Thornhill, they're in Richmond Hill, North York, they're all over the place, and a lot of people are in denial because they feel, no, termites are only in the beaches.
Right.
Cabbagetown and the beaches, that's where they are. But I happen to know because when I first had Cody trained, the first thing I needed to do was to practice with him. I know he knows what he's doing, but I have to learn as a handler what I'm doing. So I went to a structure in Thornhill, and I can obviously tell you which one. And I went to them and I spoke to the manager and I said, I have a termite dog. Would you mind if I inspect the building? And he thought, great, go ahead. I had found out from the Ministry of Environment that this particular building and area had termites. And I was walking along, and the dog was alerting to all the right places. And I told him, and I said, you have termites. I don't think he did anything about it. And he may have thought it was some sort of smoke and mirrors, whatever, with the dog. But at least I got, excuse me, at least I got some training with the dog.
Right. And so Cody's kind of retired now, isn't he? Cody, I last saw Cody in June, I think.
Yeah, Cody's 10 now. He was the first dog in Ontario anyways to be trained to sniff out termites. And yeah, he's 10 years old, and he's a great dog. And if I tell him we have to go to work, you know, he comes along with me. But I find when you're doing a termite inspection with a dog, first of all, I'll never get a vendor to call me in. A vendor will never call me in because Cody's a deal breaker. I think the law states full disclosure for termites. So if someone calls me in and says, okay, we want a termite inspection just so we can say the house is cleared, and the dog alerts, they have to, by law, tell anybody who comes in looking to buy a house that they have termites. So they're not going to ask me in. It's the vendors and more so, I'm sorry, it's the purchasers and more so their agents like you. I know you tell all your clients you should get a termite inspection and you should get a bed bug inspection because you need to know going in what you have. And so there's not a lot of people out there who want to get the dog to come in because they don't want to know about it. They'll bury their head in the sand and think, if I don't think about it, it's not there. So,
well, the last time we met was in June, and Cody alerted that there were termites in the house, and so of course my obligation is to tell the vendor's agent there's termites in the property. Well, they brought an inspector and they took down parts of walls and they didn't find any, but as you said, they can, you know, skedaddle and go underground once they hear some hammering and noise. So it's an interesting process, that's for sure.
You'll only find something if there's a huge infestation, you know, and you start ripping walls. The thing with the dog is, I could take one termite and stick it underneath a baseboard, and my dog would find it. As little as one. So if there's new activity starting in your house, there's no way you're going to find it, and yet the dog can.
Right.
The dog will pick it up.
So one last question. In the wintertime, termites go underground, and they're not dormant. They're just kind of quiet. If you did a termite inspection in December and it's really cold, what would Cody be able to find if there was an infestation before? Because I trust they don't stay in the house in the cold weather.
That's a good question. In some houses, when it's heated really well, and right below the house, they can still be active. But the ones that are, let's say, outside, coming to the house from the outside of the house, when it gets cold enough, they will go below the frost line, and they'll do whatever they do down there. And then as soon as it gets warm again, they'll come up and they'll start foraging again. You have to understand that, so there's a tunnel that the termites make from the ground going up, and it meets the house. That tunnel, if it's not collapsed, or tunnels, if they're not collapsed, and there's airflow there, that means that their odors, their pheromones, are coming through those tunnels, those tubes, and the dog can still pick it up. So I say to people, you know, you have termites, and they open up a wall and say there's nothing here. And I know if the dog is alerting, he's alerting to live termites. So
it's live termites then.
It's live termites, and they're down, they're in the soil then, and he's smelling them. And that's the problem in the States. They have this form that you have to fill out when doing a termite inspection, that you can only say you have termites if you found them.
Like physically
find them. And I actually brought this up to a committee with the National Pest Management Association in the States, because we're talking about bed bug dogs and their abilities to find bed bugs. And I said, you're doing an injustice when doing termite inspections. And I give them the same scenario about the winter time, because a lot of their termite stuff is south when they're dealing with drywood termites, another one. And I said, us guys up in the north, our termites go away in the winter time. They go south. And if the dog is alerting, if we're saying the dogs are this good as they are, and they're alerting, then you're doing an injustice to the person you're inspecting for by saying there's no termites because you haven't seen any. When you know your dog, who isn't wrong, and is alerting to termites, you know, when he says there are termites. And I say that then if we're going to say that the dogs are that good, then let's say it and let's build the laws around that.
Right, and, you know, stick to your word about
Right.
the dog being that good, you know. Michael, thanks very much for this talk about termites. I think we need to talk more about these things because Toronto doesn't like to talk about, you know, bugs and stuff like that, and it's kind of a bit of a secret, I think. So if you would like to contact Michael of Purity Pest Control, I'll put his contact information on our website and on the video. And again, Michael, thanks very much.
Thank you.